Awesome. So I was just thinking, I better keep my gun handy for later.
We may need it actually today.
Well, we may, but maybe not for the reasons that you think.
It's going to be you shooting yourself in the head repeatedly.
No, don't get your hopes up. It's going to be interesting. I'll tell you that it's going to be interesting because.
By the way, this is going to be the intro right here. It's going to cut to you brandishing a gun, and then we're off and running. That's because that's how we do it around here.
Yeah, that's how we do. Well, hello, welcome everybody to Talking Bollocks. Old Bollocks, and this is the podcast that we're doing between myself and Stephen Oldhead. So we're here again, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Mr. Stephen Oldhead Ivy.
Hello. Ready for business as usual or pleasure?
Well, yeah, actually, or business as unusual, because it's. I was going to say it's a bit of an unusual episode, but it's episode 3. So where the fuck do we get off on saying, "Hey, this is a bit of an unusual episode" when we've only done 2 episodes previously? This might be like a new regular feature.
At the end of the day, it's our fucking show. So
yeah, motherfuckers,
everything's regular.
Yeah, even when it's not. So basically, slight change to the format of the last couple of weeks. Not a massive amount of news. I'll confess, I've been on the road with Acid Rain, and Carcass is the only thing that was getting listening to on there. That and a bit of Robbie Coltrane. I'm bereft of new music, although it won't stop me slagging off some of the new music you've been listening to. But
I mean, to be fair, it's also very difficult for me because up until Friday, there was only one album I even felt interested in talking about, and then another one popped up. But we'll get into that. But so you for what you said, you got something different to bring to the table. So what is it that you're going to be doing?
I'm going to be bringing 3 oldish, very old, ancient, not so old albums to people's attention for varying different reasons.
Okay.
Because I've got dick, brother. I got dick.
So it could be new to them.
It could be new to them. Yeah. Oh, yes, my friend. It could be new to them. Yes. So you, dear listener, I might be putting something your way that is, in fact, one of them is quite rare, quite hard to get hold of. And we'll see if Stephen has done his homework and did actually check this band out when I told him to recently. Yeah. That's not in the script either, is it, motherfucker?
If it was, if we talked about it on episode 1, then I did check it out. If that's what you're bringing up,
right? So, yeah. Good. Well, I'll be looking for your input on that as well. So why don't we kick it off with? We always kick off with new music, and I've already said that I got dick. So
okay.
Now in my head there is like 3 albums you could be bringing, but you said there's only 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, obviously, we have our classic one later at the end that we'll talk about. But because initially, I'll just go ahead and start with the first one I told you, because I'm going to talk about the brand new Andrew W.K. album, which is called "God is Partying." Although I don't know if that means God is partying, as in there you go, or wherever I'm supposed to be pointing.
Dear listener, I have a gun with me. It's a 45 replica, and I'm putting it in my mouth at the thought of even listening to a review of Andrew W.K.
All right, this is great. This is why we started this show.
Yes. You fucking love him, don't you? you fucking love him, don't you?
Hear me out, because I don't love him.
Right. Okay.
So the thing I was trying to say is I don't know if the title is God is Partying, like he's having a party, or God is partying, like God is like such a party, dude. I don't know what he means by the title of this album. And here's the thing. So I am a fan of his, but not a fan to where like I own all of his shit.
And as we've established, you don't love him.
No. I did really like 20 years ago when his first album came out, I Get Wet. I was really into that just because I was so like, what the fuck is this? And I liked it a lot. And I saw him on tour around that time, and it was fun.
As soon as I heard him, right, and I saw the album cover, and I thought, well, I know how that happened. Someone's heard your music and just walked over and punched you in the face. Yeah,
I mean, it could be, but I really liked that album, and then I kind of kept tabs on what he was doing since then. But I was always like, I like these couple songs, and that's really it. It wasn't anything that made me really excited. Now, the only reason like I jumped on to listening to this album was because every time I saw an article about it, they were all like, Andrew W.K. metal album, and I'm like, really? Like actual metal? And so I started checking. I checked out the first few songs that were released from it. And I have to admit, like, I was all like, I really enjoyed them. Now, here's the thing. The album comes out. I listened to the full album. It is not a metal album. It's got 3 metal-ish songs on it. And I have to admit, like, his approach and delivery veers more to the side of metal than it ever has, like with his vocal delivery. Like you could literally take what he's doing and say, oh, he's been listening to some Dio and now he wants to try to do that kind of thing with his vocals, which is very different for Andrew WK, because this shit is I don't know. All I know is the one thing that I have to say that led me to the conclusion that I do like this album is the fact that just like with everything Andrew WK has ever done, I have no idea what angle he's coming at me with. I literally don't know. Is it tongue in cheek? Is he serious? Is he completely taking a piss on everybody? I don't know. And that alone makes me interested in what he's doing. But I do have to say that the weird trips that this album goes on, because it starts pretty dark for Andrew WK. And then there's a song that sounds like it could be in an old show tune from an old musical. And then there's a song that kind of sounds like a pop song. But all of these things combined, the one thing that kept sticking with me, even though like I wasn't 100% engaged in the album the whole time, the thing I kept thinking was like, there's a lot of good hooks here. He's like, these are actually pretty well-written songs. And it's an interesting album. Now, once I get to the end of the album, I'm kind of like, all right, well, I feel a little bit exhausted by all of this. And I don't know what the point was, because it ends up being more uplifting at the end. And the message in the album is kind of all over the place, because at times I'm all like, is he trying to do some Christian type shit? Because every once in a while, there'll be a phrase that I go, that sounds like it. But then it'll be another phrase that I go, wait, is he, I don't know what angle he's coming at. Once again, with Andrew WK, I never, like, you see an interview with the guy, there's no way that you can know if this is just an elaborate thing where he's just playing a character for 20 years, or does he have a screw loose in his head somewhere, or I have no idea. And so the fact that there's that kind of conversation in my head about what he's doing, I'm all like, most albums don't get that much thought from me. Most of them are like, this is okay, whatever. This sucks, whatever. Oh, this has some cool guitar on it. That's it. But like this particular album, I was thinking about it and going like, what is it? What is it all about? What was his angle? What's going on in his head? And on top of that, you probably don't know this because you don't give two shits about Andrew WK. On top of that, this album comes out. There's reviews coming out everywhere about it, some good, some bad. All of a sudden, he completely deletes everything off social media and cancels concerts. And he's still gone. It's been like a week. No word on like what the fuck happened. And I'm just like, this is even more just like what the fuck is going on? And so the reason I said like I don't love him, because I have gripes about some of the things he does, and some things I think are a little bit overblown, and some things I just don't quite get what he's going for, but it doesn't always please me musically. But I have to say, overall, if you're talking about the shit that he's put out, this is the first album since his debut that I've actually listened to and felt some kind of enjoyment with. And that's a really weird review, because I think a lot of people are like, do you like this or don't you like it? Both.
Yeah.
You know,
I was sat here and I felt like I was kind of like a psychiatrist. It felt more like a confession, which actually would make me more like a priest. Because it's like, I mean, just not for nothing, it sounds like a fucking mess. I mean, and the only reason for the confusion, I'm presuming, is just like, I mean, I'm kind of, you've done me in now, because I'm intrigued enough to listen to it.
Yeah.
Because because I think what I'm going to hear is an almighty mess. I'm going to hear somebody just going, "All right, well, let's do this bit now," and it's like, yeah, but that's a completely different genre. Whatever. And
I do have to say, it all kind of goes together, though. It is pretty cohesive, even though it does some leaps here and there, because he does put his Andrew W.K. spin on everything, and so is every song about partying, or does it have the word party in it? None of them are about partying. Some of them are pretty dark.
Right. Okay. Well, you know what's happened then? To me, this smacks of, this album is post therapy, post rehab, post getting clean. And this, this could be kind of like a post to that kind of experience kind of album.
It would make.
I cannot believe, right? How long have we been on now?
Fuck, I don't know. 10 minutes, maybe
10, 15 minutes.
Yeah,
that is enough on Andrew W. I mean, Jesus Christ. Where else are you going to find more than 10 minutes on Andrew W.K?
I don't know. The Banger TV did one of their worst reviews I've ever seen on this album, and it was about a 10-minute review, and it made me. That whole thing, they need to revamp the people that are in that fucking crew, because it is it's a mess over there. Some people would say that this is a mess right here, but this is all you're going to get. Sorry.
But that's how we started. It's always been a mess,
Yeah.
And you're not getting any new people here, because that's like not how this works.
Nope. Just these same old crusty bollocks.
Yes.
Every day.
Speak for yourself. My bollocks are crustless.
Yeah, mine are too. I was just trying to paint a picture for the viewers out there without actually whipping them out,
God, yeah. Now, mind you, that given the algorithm on YouTube, that might no, it's not going to help, is it? It's not going to help. Anyway,
we can move on. We'll move on from Andrew W.K.
What else you got for us, Stevie?
So this is the one. I didn't have anything else to talk about, and then Friday, doing my usual thing, I go to Apple Music. What's there in the metal section? Let's listen to things that pop up and look interesting. And so I ended up listening to an album by a band I'd never heard of called Four Stroke Baron. And it was mostly because, like Howard and I've talked about before, sometimes you see artwork and you go, that looks interesting. I'm going to go check that out. And the interesting thing, when I went to go look at it, though, the first thing I thought was, this artwork's not amazing. And also, that band name is kind of shit. And so I was really kind of like, what is this going to be like? And then all of a sudden, I found myself 3 songs in, and I was just like, do I love this? I'm not quite sure. And so I messaged you, and I'm like, check this out, because that's what I'm currently listening to. Now, flash forward to now, I have listened to the album 5 times. Right. I've ordered the vinyl.
Right.
This album, every single time I've listened to this album, I have grown to love it more and it's crazy. It's been a very long time since an album has come out from a band I didn't know that immediately I'm like, I just want to keep listening to this album, because it's for those of you who don't know, I'll try to explain their sound. It's progressive metal. What I said to Howard, it's like if you take a progressive metal album and then you put Roland Ozerbal from Tears for Fears as the vocalist, and then just kind of go batshit crazy with everything. And then you have this album. It's called Classics, is the name of the album.
And also, I think if you add in the fact that that it sounds a lot in heaviness and orchestrally and in its epic nature, it leans very much towards Devin Townsend, and there's a perfectly good reason for that.
He does according to the liners, he does mixing and sound design, which is, it fucking sounds great to me. And I love all the little flourishes. And it's true, because you go back, because like this turns out this is Four Stroke Baron's third album, fourth if you count the split EP kind of thing they did. But if you go back and listen, check
him out, all knowledgeable about Four Stroke Baron.
I'm telling you, like I got into this band really quick. And so if you listen to their older stuff, it's the same sound, but it's more stripped down. So Devin Townsend, I think, gave it a shot in the arm that it really needed, because it's an album that put on your headphones and it's just so much going on. And it's so much to unfold, because it doesn't, the only category that fit was prog metal, but there's so many different things in there that these guys are doing. And at first it seems a little bit like, these guys are maybe a little bit pretentious. Maybe this is a little bit overblown or whatever. But the more that I listen to it, the more I'm just like, there's so much interesting shit here. Like, I don't think I've been this engaged in a new album in 10 years, maybe. I don't know. Wow. Just because of the amount of things that connect with me. But it's also the kind of band that I could totally hear somebody else listening to this and being like, what is this bullshit? But with me in prog metal, I wouldn't consider myself a prog metal fan. Prog metal, it's like this big sea of prog metal, and there's this tiny little canal that goes through it. And if bands fall in that little canal, then I'm on board. So it somehow has all these little boxes that they tick that made it something that I felt. And it's a fucking amazing album to me. And it just gets more amazing the more I listen to it. Now, I also have to say, because you said you were talking about Devin Townsend, I gotta make a confession, and at the same time, maybe a request. I have never heard any Devin Townsend albums.
Right.
I know who he is. I know he was in Strapping Young Lad, and a lot of people really like him, and he does proggy shit. That's as far as I know. So that's my confession. My request is, hey, anybody watching this video, where should I start with Devin Townsend? Give me an album to go to, because it seems like if he's anywhere near this kind of shit, I'd probably be into it. But yeah, overall, this is one of, so far, I guess we're getting near the end of 2021. This is one of the most exciting albums I've heard, just because I love it so much. And it was something I just stumbled upon. I had no idea who they were. So,
well, you loved it so much. I went out and found, you sent me a link to Bandcamp, which is great. And I listened to it and thought, right, holy fuck, I better get hold of this. So I bought it. This morning, I listened to the album all the way through without realizing that I actually listened to the first song 5 times. and I had it on repeat. And I was doing something else. I was doing a merch run, basically. I was packing merch up and everything. And you tend to go into that mental place where it's just like music's just there, and just kind of like, and I didn't realize I still had my my music player on repeat track from last night, and so and I kept hearing that, the main riff and the main song, and I kept thinking,
This is a fucking long song.
No. I just kept thinking, there's that riff again. They like that riff. And then I was just like carrying on.
Yeah.
And then the penny finally dropped. I was like, oh, you fucking idiot. Now, I have made it through the album once. And at the moment, I would say there are times where they disappear right up their own arseholes. It's pretentious in the extreme. And I just think, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
And there's other times where I do think, yeah, fuck me, this is great, this is heavy, this is good. But at no point do I think, God, I like this. I just seem to be on the edge of it. I mean, I've only listened to the whole album once. I've listened to bits and pieces more than that, but I'm kind of on it. It needs to win me over, because at the moment for me, it's missing a bit of heart and soul. It's very accurate, and it's very tight, and it's very epic, and it's very loud and dark and light. But it's just
everything you said there sounds like an album I would love.
It's just coming to. It's just a bit soulless. It's a bit heartless. It's like
I think that
I'm finding that's how I'm finding it.
That part reveals itself, honestly.
Ooh,
that's the thing.
Okay.
That's the thing that I think drew me really into like loving this album, was because when I first heard it, I had the same thoughts where I'm like, some of this is pretentious. Some of this, I'm all like, what were they even going for here? But then the more I listened to it, especially lyrically speaking, I was like, okay, there's a lot. This is a pretty deep album. And, I don't know.
Right.
It's hard for me to explain, because this is not the kind of music I normally listen to. So it's almost like stepping into a world that I don't really know a whole lot about. My prog, love is like Rush, and then random other albums, it's like that happened to pique my interest, but I don't go that far into it. And so it's almost like, somebody opened a door into this world for me a little bit. And I'm just like, oh, I'm a step in here. And it just, for some reason, it just really connected with me. But that's the one thing I do have to say, is that it is one of those albums. I honestly can understand somebody saying that it was bullshit. It's like, there's something interesting about an album that I can hear is genius, but I could also understand somebody thinking is complete shit. So
Jesus, that's your theme for the evening, isn't it? That's 2 albums in a row.
I never said that Andrew W.K. album was genius. I said I enjoyed it.
No, and Andrew W.K, genius or fool? I would venture fool, but there you go. Sorry, I've brought Andrew W.K. up again. Look, I get what you mean. My only kind of fear is that they're going to end up in the Devon Townsend kind of place, which is put Devon Townsend album on, you go, fuck me, this sounds incredible. Wow, listen to that. Oh, listen to that beautiful orchestral surge. Whoa. And like 60 minutes later, you go, same song as it? Yeah. Okay. Right.
Okay.
And it's just, and you just lose interest. And I'm here to be won over. At the moment, I'm trepidatious, but I will persevere, because they're clearly very good at what they do. And there are times where it is ball crushingly heavy. So that's always a good place to start.
And then other times it literally does sound like Heavy Tears for Fears. There's even a couple of melodic lead parts that I go, that's literally something that could have been on songs from The Big Chair. I'm assuming I don't know how you are about 80s pop, but
I was around.
Yeah, Tears for Fears is one of my favorites from that era, especially that album I just mentioned. And so I said this to you when we were on the Zoom call the other day. I said, if you just came to me and said it's a prog metal band fronted by the guy from Tears for Fears, and I'd be like, I am all over that shit right now.
I genuinely thought it was. After you sent me your message, I misread your message and thought it was. So that was doing my fucking head in. But well, look. Hey, listeners, tell us what you think. Tell us if you can get into 4-Stroke Baron, which is a shit band name. So it'll probably stick in the mind because it's that bad.
It's one of those band names that 2 days into like listening to this album and being really into it, I went to go like look them up on the internet and I forgot what their name was.
Yeah. I had to rename the folder 2 or 3 times because I got it wrong. And I was just like, what the fuck? Yeah, no, it's understandable.
Anyway, name's not great. Album's amazing, and to me. But let's move on. Let's not take forever on my shit, because I'm interested to hear about what you got to bring to the table today.
Well, what I have got to bring to the table is something classic that's definitely not metal, something thrash that is definitely metal, and something hardcore that definitely isn't metal. So the hardcore thing that I'm going to bring up and recommend, because I haven't got, like, I just want to try and drop some new to you bombs. And this must be the album that you went digging for last time we spoke.
Radioactivist,
Yes. Red Tape, Radioactivist. Now, I don't know what you thought to the album. We haven't discussed it. My feelings are, if you like Attitude Adjustment, if you like Suicidal Tendencies, if you like Agnostic Front, Crumbsuckers, if you like all of that kind of era of stuff, and you like your hardcore, but you like it with a little bit of crossover, then you cannot go wrong with Radioactivist by the band Red Tape. The album again, Radioactivist. Now, it came out on Roadrunner Records way back in, he says, looking at the album sleeve. Well, that is absolutely ridiculous. No, can't find it. Well, that was a fantastic bit of,
and it's their only album,
podcasting.
Right? Isn't it their only album?
Well, no, sorry, 2003. That was annoying.
Okay.
2003. Well, yes and no. It's definitely their only album on Roadrunner, and kind of sunk without trace. And I considered myself still kind of into the hardcore scene, even though it was 2003 and it wasn't allowed anymore. And I mean, it was just awesome. I mean, it's got everything. It's got hooks, it's got pace, it's got some great lyrics. The production is perfect for that kind of album, for that kind of music. And you've got a singer who can sing enough. He's got a good voice, but he's really at his best when he's kind of like shouting and screaming along. And but there is, like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I can see you nodding away there. It's got hooks.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that I like about it. Well, and I like just the overall energy of the album and how tight everything feels.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I like this album. It's great. I've only heard it once all the way through in a couple of songs, just randomly. But I don't even know. I don't know how I didn't hear of this back in the day, because honestly, over in the States anyway, hardcore kind of got a little shot in the arm, where all of a sudden people were getting into those bands again because of hardcore, not because of The Shape of Punk to Come by Refused.
Yeah.
That album came out, was it 2000, something like that, 99, 2000. And then all of a sudden I knew a lot more people that were like talking about these hardcore bands. So it seems like one that maybe I even heard in 2003 and just completely forgot about. But
well, when you hear the album, it's got the feel. It's like, I absolutely totally know where you're coming from, because when you're listening to it, you're thinking, hang on, this is good. This is really good. In fact, this is so good. Why didn't I know about it at the time?
Yeah.
Because you hear it and you think, whoa, okay, this has got everything, and if you like, let's say crossover, hardcore, punk, whatever, it's a killer album from 2003. Yeah. It really is. It's an absolute killer album. I mean, if that had come out like, 5 years earlier or whatever, I mean, well, bearing in mind that's 10 years after the River Runs Red by Life of Agony.
Oh yeah.
Which is like kind of bizarre when you think about it, but anyway, Red Tape, Radioactivist. It's, in my opinion, it is a bit of a classic, and as you've heard described, an unknown classic.
Yeah, I feel like that's an album that, because of the current state of popular heavy music, hardcore is a big thing now. I feel like all it's going to take is enough people to bring this album up now, and then it'll bubble up to the top again. It's got to. Like, there's some albums that I feel like it's better than a lot of shit that's going on today. So I'm just like, people just got to hear it. But it's unfortunate that a label, well, I guess I haven't heard great things about Roadrunner in general, but it just sucks that like a band puts out an album and it just gets buried so easily.
Yeah.
I guess it happens a lot though, unfortunately. But
yeah, and also sometimes it's just how it is. Not everything is going to get the attention it deserves.
Yeah.
So the next thing that I'm gonna I want to flag up to everyone is and a shout out for the wonderful people at BMG and Miles, because they're the guys I do the Motorcast with, and they've done a bunch of brilliant metal remasters and re-releases, and they did all of Kreator's catalog, which was just, well, the sort of the noise albums, which was just fucking brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them that had escaped my notice, that had crept by, was, and I'm actually looking for the year again because I want to make sure this is right. Okay, right, yeah, no, that's not right. Anyway, it's an album by Kreator called Cause for Conflict. I don't know if anybody remembers that from back in the day. It came out in a tin as well, but I'd already been burned by Ugly by Life of Agony came in a tin, and someone sat on it, and it was fucked forever after that. So it's like, yeah, I don't want any of that tin shit. And I don't know if that played a role in me not getting the album right, but it's an absolute barnstormer. It is an incredible thrash metal album. It's relentless, and also it's got two or three of Kreator's all-time shortest songs on it. And having just been speaking about a hardcore album, there's 2 or 3 hardcore tracks on this album. I mean, utterly brutal. And it's violently anti-religious as an album lyrically as well. And they just got stuck in, and it sounds incredible right from the opening track. I'm just looking through the booklet at the moment, which is fantastic. The packaging on it is superb, and I do recommend, if you're into CDs at all, this is worth getting. But just right from the very first track, Prevail, they are absolutely on it. Catholic Despot. I mean, now there's a tune.
Yeah.
But yeah, Crisis of Disorder, Hate Inside Your Head, and the track Bomb Threat is just like a fucking bomb threat from Kreator, basically. And one of these songs, and one of them is less than 2 minutes long as well. And it's the Kreator album that I don't know if I'm saying this because I did it. I'm not sure. I don't know if everybody goes, oh, Cause for Conflict. Yeah, that's a fucking great album. But as far as I'm concerned, I think I'm not aware of that being the case. And I just want to kind of wave a flag of hate and bring attention to Cause for Conflict, because it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I don't think I'd heard this album in many, many years, and you brought it up and I went back to listen to it. I'm just like, this is fucking great. And Kreator is a band that overall, to me, they're kind of hit or miss. They have some amazing albums and some albums that I go, this is too much of the same. But there's something about this one. I think this album was like 97 or something like that. I don't know if something like that.
I'm scrambling around here. I can't find anything.
It's something. It's mid to late 90s, I believe, but it's like really well done. And
92.
Oh, 92. Shit, I was way off. But it's so this was pre them getting industrial.
No. This follows Renewal.
Okay.
And maybe that explains, because with Renewal, they kind of lent towards industrial and a change in style.
Yeah.
Whereas on this, it was almost like it's a violent reaction to that. It is, and yeah. I mean, that is the word. It's violently different to Renewal.
Yeah. It's great. It's a solid fucking album. And it's it's another one of those albums that, like, because a lot of the more extreme in your face metal bands, they to me can get kind of tiresome after a little while. but I gotta say, this is one of those albums that does not do that. And that's pretty great. Because I think especially more recent creator stuff, I get kind of bored, for lack of a better word.
I know exactly what you're saying. I'm just trying to see if there's any credits here, but no, I mean, it's just phenomenal. I was looking for a producer credit, but also there's like, there's a couple of additions, a couple of changes in the lineup from Renewal, which really seems like that was a part in the ways musically and personally. And actually, here's a word that neither of us mentioned that I think it sounds hungry.
Yeah.
It sounds like Kreator going back to being Kreator. They've done Renewal. They've had some hard years. They've got 2 new members, and they've gone, right, let's fucking have it. Let's just go all out and make an album that we just fucking, that we like.
I mean, there's something to be said for that, because I know some people, myself included, occasionally talk about how great it is when a band can retain its lineup throughout the years. But there's something to be said that sometimes what a band needs is some new blood, and maybe that was it for this album. Maybe they got a couple new guys in, and all of a sudden everything old is new again, or whatever.
A change is as good as a rest, as we say over here in the UK, Stephen.
I like that. It's good.
Yes. So that is hardcore Red Tape, and that is hardcore thrash. Kreator Cause for Conflict. And now I'm going to go over to a 3 CD and 1 Blu-ray book, and it's about 60-page booklet that comes with the album as well, which is quite hard to do, but that's the booklet, and the whole thing is an absolute. Yeah, no, I'm trying to get it right.
Oh, okay.
Marillion, Fugazi. It is the and it's the signed CD box set, signed by the man Fish there. The book itself, I've got one for Script for a Jester's Tear, and I've got one for Clutching at Straws as well. And Fugazi was like the first new Marillion album came out, and I was a fan of them. And there was a new album coming out, so I had all the new hysteria to deal with and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And then I sat down and watched the and spoiler alert, if you've got the DVD, then don't listen to this bit. I sat down to watch the documentary, and straight off the bat it becomes quite apparent that nobody in the band likes the album. And I'm like, but this was my album. This is and then they go and when they go through it track by track, it's like by the end, you can tell the guitarist Steve Rothery is just like, yeah, it's that one. That's nearly a good song. But the story behind it as well is there was loads of, they recorded it here, they recorded it there, ran out of time here, ran out of time there. They were, literally cabbing master tapes around to do a bit of mixing here or do this there. And ridiculous way of putting an album together. And they were all invited over to EMI to have a listen. And they'd done various various bits and pieces. And they said, look, right, the label went, look, we're going to get the album mixed. And they were like, right, okay. And they were like, right, come and have a listen. So they went and had a listen. I said, then we all sat there and we listened, and we went, and we'd kind of been making notes during it. And we went, yeah, I mean, it's sort of brilliant, but it's savable. And they were like, what do you mean savable? That's in production. That's done. That's finished. And they were like, what? Like, well, we invited you over here to hear the final product. That's in production. And they were just like, oh, right. It's finished then, is it? Shit. So, I mean, the stories you hear about what happens to bands and albums in the process of the music business, the unforgiving machine that is the music business. And you just think, yeah, Christ, I'd hate that album as well if that was, do you know what I mean? If that was what was forced upon me. So the band gets completely remix it. So there's a whole remix of the album in there. There's a remaster of the original album. There's shows, there's videos, there's gigs. I mean, there's a live album on the Blu-ray. There's a live CD of that album. I mean, it's superb. It's every fan's jizz-filled wish, and I absolutely love it. And it just, it's just taken me back right to the 80s. I've listened to the remaster. There's the remix. There's some bits in it I like where they've used tracks that are kind of buried, maybe sort of atmospheric tracks that are buried in the original mix, where they come out a little bit more, especially bits of Fisher's vocals, because that was hanging on his every word back then. And but all in all, I think I might still prefer the original mix, which and I can be objective, you know. I prefer the remix of Script for a Jester's Tear, which is the first album I ever owned or heard of Marillion. So you know, I prefer the remix of that, but the remix of Fugazi, I need to give it a couple more listens, but it is just an awesome package. It's one of those things that you get by a band and you just go, oh my God, I am so pleased I've got you. And you give it a little hug, and then you put it on the pillow and you go to sleep and you say, night, night, Fugazi box set. And then you go off to sleep. It's just, I'm quite happy with my purchase, is what I'm saying.
It's funny because this is now we're on to one that I haven't heard, and I haven't heard any Marillion. Oh well, over here that wasn't a thing. Like, you don't.
Yeah, no, I'm more than aware of that. They were quite big. They did okay in Canada.
Yeah.
I'm aware that Canada is not the USA. From a North American,
close enough.
Yeah, from a North American point of view, they did have some success, but just not. The USA and Marillion just never really happened for them.
There's a lot of bands like that, but also like so that album was early 80s when it came out.
Yes. Fugazi is 84. I'm not having much luck with years tonight, am I really? I'll look at the original. You'll probably look it up on the internet before I can find it on this fucking box set. 84.
Yeah. Okay.
I was right.
It's so interesting to think, because also that time, I don't know how prolific of a band they were, but you know, there were so many bands in the 70s and 80s, early 80s, that it was almost expected that they had to put out an album every 1 to 2 years, no matter what. And so like, so many of those bands like look back on certain albums and go, I could have done that one better. But then it's always somebody's favorite album. It's like,
yeah, absolutely. It's always, you know, it's some kids discovered Star Wars via the medium of Jar Jar fucking Binks. You know, that's and you know, there's some Jar Jar Binks of albums out there, but you know, people still love them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll take a Jar Jar Binks album over a special edition album any day, if you know what I mean.
Are you slagging off my special edition little book?
No, I'm slagging off bands like Megadeth, who completely redo what their album sounds like to try to make up for it somehow. I don't know. I'm not a fan of remixed albums. I like the way that they did it on that box set. That's cool. If you're going to give me the original and then give me a different version of an album I love, totally cool. But if you're replacing that album completely, then I'm just like, you're literally, if you thought it was that bad, then just get rid of it altogether. You know.
Yeah, but to be fair, Megadeth did the same, and all the original versions still exist, and you can listen to them if you want.
Well, my gripe with that, I don't know about Spotify because I don't use Spotify, but you can only hear, for a little while especially, you could only hear the remix versions of Megadeth albums, and so people would comment things like, that mix, Rust in Peace is such an overrated album because the mix is awful. And I'm like, what are you fucking listening to? They're listening to the version that's available to stream. And so, so it bums me out sometimes, but
that's Dave playing God with his music. And, you know, That's
if God comes back and takes something and makes it worse, then yeah, that's a plan God. Anyway, so that's one. So is that so? Okay, so for a newbie on Marillion, where's the jumping on point for Marillion?
Oh God, you see, the thing is, Marillion is still going to this day, and they've put out a shit ton of albums. But I only
and doesn't Fish do solo albums too?
Oh yeah, he's done some of those. But I only give a fuck about the very first 4 albums that Marillion did, and they're all with Fish.
Okay.
Now, I'd start at album number 1, and then maybe go to 2, and then maybe go to 3, and then maybe go to 4, and go on that journey. So first album is very Genesis, very Rush, very prog.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're into the 80s, well, properly into the 80s by Fugazi comes along. So it's kind of 80s proggy stuff. And then you've got Misplaced Childhood, which kind of is the big album that went to number 1 over here. There was a number 2 single on it called Kaylee. And then the final album, which I'm not a massive fan of, Misplaced Childhood, to be honest. I went to the tour, but I was tuning out. I was like, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
And then Clutching at Straws, their last album, is it. Now for you, my friend, I would say, listen to the Marillion album, Clutching at Straws.
Okay.
Because it's kind of seething. There's a seething resentment in the kind of folded up in the atmosphere of the album. It's a band who were going to split up not many months after the album came out, and I just think you can kind of hear it. You can. There's just this. Yeah, it's just a bit of an atmosphere about it. So I would direct you to that, but I would. That's the Marillion story for me.
Cool. All right.
That's
your last one.
That's my last one. That is all I have to offer. Can I go?
Look at that. We got some new albums. We got some old albums, whatever.
Maybe.
And then that brings us to you. You still got to stay for one more thing. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yes, I know. Well, look, seeing as how it's right, basically this was voted for on my Patreon, so it's my chance to plug Patreon, of which Stephen is a patron and can tell you how brilliant it is.
It is.
But it's great fun, and all the popular kids are signed up. So if you haven't, you are unpopular, and you're not welcome. I mean, sorry, you are welcome, and is your money. So yeah, come and join us over at Patreon. Now, what we did was we had a poll. By the way, it's Howard's. It's patreon.com/Howard H. Smith. You will be able to click a link in the description of this podcast or this video if you want to come along and join the party. Anyway, where were we? Oh yes, that's right. Poll. So we did a poll, and the albums that were being polled were.
Are you going to go into that?
I'm going to say, well,
I chose them, by the way.
Well, I think it's a nice little window into your musical taste. Okay. I mean, let's go with the most obvious. Vivid by Living Colour. That was one album.
Yeah.
There was also Holy Terror. Mind Wars. Mind Wars by Holy Terror. That was up there, which personally I would have voted for. Mm-hmm. Next up was Exploited album. Which one was that?
Troops of Tomorrow by the Exploited.
Troops of Tomorrow by the Exploited. And what was the last one? Do we still have an extra one? Or do
we the one we're talking about?
The winner with 59%. God, we managed to make that sound like fucking a garden fate tombola. The winner with 59% is Sacred Reich, The American Way. 59% of voters said, we won't hear what Steve thinks about this.
You're saying that like everybody there appears to be British except for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, basically. Yeah. So, Stephen.
Yes.
The American Way. You nominated it as a classic.
Yes.
Now, that's a bold statement.
Now it is a bold statement because I honestly, I feel like the cool Sacred Reich album is Ignorance. Whenever people bring up a Sacred Reich album, they bring that one up.
Yeah, I'm nodding my head furiously for listeners. I've made myself slightly dizzy. Sorry.
Yeah. But this one to me is the one that I always go back to because I really enjoy, because I like thrash metal. You can give me some basic thrash metal and I'm fine. But when those bands get a little bit ambitious, to me, they make their most interesting albums. Case in point, Acid Rain. My favorite Acid Rain album is Obnoxious. Although, give it some time. Age of Entitlement might eclipse that one. I don't know. But the thing that I like about Obnoxious is the same thing I like about the American Way, where a band was just like, let's see how wide we can kick things open, and not be so worried about being fast all the time, not worried about being having the songs be all concise all the time. We can just, go off on a tangent here and there. Now, really, there's only like a couple songs, I think, on this album that are actually like long, but I almost feel like a lot of bands, you can tell me if I'm wrong about your band in particular, but I feel like bands they all kind of got the bug that they wanted to do there, and Justice for All. Like, where there's a little bit of progginess, a little bit of ambition, pushing the sound out a little bit.
Well, as with everything in thrash metal, Metallica led the way, and and Justice for All came out with a bunch of long songs on it, and everyone went, "Oh, it's okay, we can do it. It's allowed. It's allowed." So, I've just seen Metallica doing it. It's allowed. So then we all went, "Yeah, do it."
So this one, the things that I just love the songs in this, but not only that, I love the way that it sounds, and it's an album where so many songs have mid sections that are my favorite sections of the songs. Like you'll have your verses and your choruses, but then there's a midsection, especially in State of Emergency. The whole middle section of that song to me is fucking brilliant. And but one of the things I think that I like about Sacred Reich, because if you take their whole discography and you pick it apart, they've never been very flashy or try to like be, I don't know, I don't feel like they're trying to impress anybody with what they do, and so I think that's a character of this album that I really like, where you can hear that they're being ambitious and a little bit progressive, but it doesn't sound like they're trying to impress anybody. These are just the songs that kind of how they happened, and I just think it's their best album just because of that, because it still does in many ways sound like Sacred Reich. It's got the riffs, it's got Phil's voice, which I love his voice, and it's just the most that they tried to go pushing things forward with their sound, because the next album would be Independent, where they kind of brought things back in, and it wasn't, the thrashiness was taken down a notch, but the progressive element was also taken down. And they never really went back to that again. They never did an album where all of a sudden they seemed like the word proggy could be used at all. And in this, I'm using that term loosely, but for them, it's the proggiest they got. So I just love this album. And to me, it is a classic. And I'm going to throw it over to you, because I know that you don't agree, but let's hear your 2 cents worth.
It came out the same week in the UK. I don't know if it did in the US. It came out the same week of When the Storm Comes Down by Flotsam and Jetsam. And Flotsam and Jetsam, that album is hampered by the drum production. The production overall is lets that album down. Yeah. And funnily enough, I know the band would love to do a remix, and that I'd be in favor of. But then there was The American Way, and they came out at the same time. Now, one of the albums has got lots of depth on it and lots of intricate songwriting, and one of them is The American Way. And and The American Way just grabs you straight away. And both me and a friend of mine were both at the time, and still to this day, funnily enough, we'll often revisit the topic. The American Way blew us away, and Flots got put to the side. And then Flots, it was like, of every 4 listens, you'd listen to the American Way 3 times and then Flotsam and Jetsam once, just to feel like it was worth buying the CD. And then after a while, it kind of got level. And then after a while, and the longer the album sat with us, American Way never got played. And because of a lack of depth. And funnily enough, some of the reasons that you said there that you like it so much, and that was interesting to listen to. But for me, Flotsam just absolutely aced it because there was just so much more depth in it. There was the songwriting was superb. The lyrics, Eric Braverman was writing lyrics for him back then, and the lyrics were on point. And it was a great album that was hampered by the production. So I went back to the American Way to give it a listen. And boy, time has not been kind. The drums, fucking hell. Anyone else going to be on the record? Or should we just have the drums?
Well, like I said, and justice for all, and justice for all. That's like I said.
I mean, it is hideous drum production. They're just way too loud. They're louder than the guitars. The vocals just about cut through over the drums. The bass drums are hideous and just change the sound, take them right down in the mix. It's at times it sounds like somebody's got a big tea chest and they've put loads of like shoes in it and they're just shaking it around. And it's like, there's your drum sound.
That's funny. I've never gotten that from this album. I can understand loud, but other than that, I've never gotten any of that.
The drums are just bollocks. And again, on what you were saying, I love Phil's voice, but Jesus Christ, this album for me as a singer is just annoying because it is Janet and John time. It is if the riff goes then the vocals are going to go
but they don't on that particular song.
If on track 2, which I can't remember for some reason. No, that is the American Way.
The American Way.
Third song after the American Way.
The Way It Is.
Yes. Yeah. And the vocals just follow the guitar.
We talked about this before with State of Euphoria. So this is a thing that bugs you and doesn't bug me necessarily as much. Yeah.
I'm gonna play a musician's card, right?
I'm a musician too. I'm sorry that I'm not successful.
Right. Okay. Well, listen up. This might be one of the reasons why.
Some people would say there are many reasons why.
Vocals should never follow the music. They should always be working with it, not on it. And that goes especially for choruses, but sometimes it can work. It does work and it can work. But you said yourself, because I was nodding away when you were talking about this album, and you were saying some of the most memorable bits on this album and some of the bits that you enjoy the most are mid sections. And that to me is like, yes, I agree with you on this. That is because the verse and the choruses are poor. That's just like my take on this album is it's really, really basic, really. And some of the lyrics, they're coming from the right place, but they're just a bit boneheaded. And I'm genuinely surprised. For me, I'm genuinely surprised at just how bad this is, revisiting it all these years later.
This is so interesting to me, just because like I listen to it often. I listened to it today, and the only thing I can say lyrically speaking is that Phil has always been, I have this thing I want to say, I wrote these lyrics down and now they're done. Like, I feel like he doesn't really take a whole lot of time. Maybe occasionally he comes up with some interesting phrasing, but for the most part, I feel like he has something he wants to say and he doesn't try to like be fluffy with it or whatever, or flowery.
Look, I totally agree. I like some of the lyrics on the album. I'm not saying put all the lyrics in the bin. And I like some of the lyrics, but some of them are fucking boneheaded. And
I would honestly go
Ozzy Judas Priest.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that Who's to Blame is the one song where lyrically I go, he probably should have taken a few more passes at those lyrics before they recorded it.
I know, but like I said, it's like the Steven Spielberg list of topics. Do you know what I mean? It's like, ooh, government bad. Ooh, Earth.
Yeah.
Earth is hurting. Parents, they're bad. And
I think that the problem, maybe this is it's a geographical thing too, because I think about that, and over in America, there's not enough, even though all these thrash bands back in the late 80s and early 90s were doing environmental songs, political songs, whatever you want to have, like the fact that I've lived in a country that those songs have to happen because most people are completely clueless and don't care. And so like even today, like you'll hear these bands and you'll go, well, this is shit that people have already been singing about for 30, 40 years. I'm like, yeah, why do they still need to sing about it? And so I think that's why a lot of these things, even though you could say, yeah, they wrote a song about this and this and this, they checked off all the boxes for being a politically minded, socially minded band. But that's fine, except for the fact that a lot of these things are still very relevant over here today. Like nothing is fucking changed. And so that is important to me. And so I don't know. I never look at it as a just sort of basic when it comes to that, because there are other bands that sure did a song about how it's bad that children got to go over and fight wars they have no point in being. And the other one's, the rainforest is burning down. That's fine. But then if you go and ask them like in an interview, how do you feel about these? Oh, no, we don't talk about politics. And so Sacred Reich has always been this band that they're like, that motherfucker's going to tell you what he feels.
Okay, I'll give you that. Yeah,
so that's why when it comes to them, I'm like, I would expect nothing less than a very pointed, lyrically speaking song about something that has been talked about a lot, but continues to be relevant. And so I don't know. That's just my point of view. Like I get frustrated. I get frustrated every day being on the internet and and just seeing people like on Twitter and other things. And I go, people like you still fucking exist. Like, why are we still here?
I know.
Anyway, so that's a totally different story. That's just
that is a different podcast. That is the Meet Us Down the Docks for Real Change podcast.
Yeah. But anyway, it's interesting though, because there are so many albums that I think that I really love that any number of people would talk about how it was bad in whatever ways.
Absolutely.
And it's so interesting to me. Like that's why I never present my opinions as this is good, this is bad, because I think about the shit that I like. I'm like, man, so many people shit on these albums that I like. And so I'm like, clearly the other way around, it probably isn't correct. If I sit here and talk all day about how I think most of the shit that Slipknot did was shit, that's just a personal opinion, and other people get something really deep out of it. And so it's interesting to hear that.
But also over time, and I speak as a bit of an expert on this subject, over time you get a chance to change your opinion. Yeah, you get a chance to actually turn around and go, do you know what? I did it with Lamb of God, who I've just consistently taken the piss out of on Talking Bollocks, and Randy Blythe, when his name is Dave Randall Blythe. Why wouldn't you be called Dave Blythe? That's your fucking nickname. That's the way the world works. They're the rules. Yeah. Dave Blythe. You don't get to pick your middle name, turn it all cool into Randy instead of Randall, because let's face it, Randall is the lead singer of Lamb of God. That's not fucking flying, is it? So he changed it to Randy. Right? We get Randy Blythe. And it should be fucking Dave Blythe. Anyway, I've always said, don't like his singing. Don't get on with it at all. But I really like his photography, and I like his presence on social media, and I love his interviews.
Yeah.
So I've never been like, oh, fuck that band. And then the Lamb of God album, Lamb of God, came out in lockdown, and it was one of my lockdown classics. I absolutely loved it, and I think it's a great album. I still do. But does that mean that I was wrong to slag him off for 5 years? No, I mean, it's just an opinion, and it can change at any time. And I think that's the whole thing as well, isn't it? It's just an opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, that's right. My opinion might absolutely wind somebody up, but guess what? It's just my opinion. And you've probably got opinions that would completely wind me up. So I'm not going to listen to you. Don't listen to me. That's why I want everyone to take away from this podcast. Don't listen.
Don't listen to us. Okay, just turn this off right now.
And don't listen to us or the American Way. It's fucking terrible.
And then listen to American Way because it's amazing.
Absolutely. They
point counterpoint.
And other opinions are available. It's all right. Not much of a fan. Oh, I quite like it. They're all opinions that are available on podcasts that aren't ours.
So in conclusion, you would probably not use the word classic to describe this particular album
at all. And when you mentioned Ignorance, and you were saying that's probably their most original work, and that's when I was nodding, because I think Ignorance is that's in the thrash metal Hall of Fame. American Way ain't. In fact, American Way for me, go back one notch, and American Way is Surf Nicaragua Light. Surf Nicaragua was just like that EP. First time you heard that, and I was on the road and we heard it recently, and it's like, you're entering Managua. I was like, whoa, fucking hell. Just awesome. And there's nothing as good as that song on the whole of the American Way. And maybe I never got over that disappointment, or maybe I just fell in love with Flotsam and Jetsam a little bit too much. But just didn't.
I'm gonna include that album in my next list because that's worth talking about, I think, too. When the storm comes down.
Oh, what?
Because that's one it's been with me for a while. Because that was around the time I discovered them, was when that album was out. And of course, the only reason I knew who they were was because Jason Newsted was once in the band. But yeah, that was the new album when I first heard Flotsam and Jetsam. So it's one it's been in my life for a while.
Wow. So do you always go back to it then?
I honestly, between the three of No Place for Disgrace, that one, and Quattro, like I listen to all three of those often.
Oh, Quattro is a work of fucking genius. I got the gold remastered CD.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, the greatest, possibly the only, but the greatest thrash metal single to not be a fucking hit is Dial 00.
Yeah, that album's fucking great.
Well,
but once again,
Neil Kernan as well. The production is just monstrous.
Yeah, but that's another thing that I talk about often, about how the reason why newer bands are so boring to me. If you take those three albums we just mentioned, none of them sound like each other.
Yeah.
But now you have bands that put out the same album 3 times. Same thing with Sacred Reich with their stuff. They constantly were trying something new. And Flotsam now, they're great now, but they are kind of putting out similar sounding things. It's all quality shit.
But what's happened there is that you're developing as a musician and you're developing as a writer. And as you get older, you get to know what works, what doesn't.
Yeah.
What you like, what you don't like, just like you do about everything else in your life. And as a listener, if you keep wanting them to challenge themselves and make another album that sounds completely different, well, you need those guys in the mid-20s.
Yeah.
And they're not, they're in the mid-50s.
Yeah.
And that's where that comes from. And that's where they're not as challenging these days, blah, blah. It's like Paul, our guitarist, always says, people talk about the first 5 Metallica albums. It's like, Metallica haven't been that band for over 20 years, 30 years even, and it's like, that's just not, it's not who they are anymore. But those 3 albums are just unbelievable. Funny thing is, every time I go back to When the Storm Comes Down, I put it on at the beginning and it's that intro, and it's just like, and you go, oh yeah, this is good. Production's all right on this. It's all right. And then the verse kicks in, and then the first time you hear that snare, you just go, oh fuck me. Oh yeah, it was the snare.
I have to admit, I've grown. That was the thing that kept me from getting really into that album, was the production. But over the years, I've gotten so used to it.
Oh yeah,
I'm just
absolutely.
like, it's fine. It's fine.
So I mean, but the songs on there, Suffer the Masses, for fuck's sake. I mean, we're talking about songs that just individual tunes that belong in the all-time pantheon of metal history, not just thrash metal. I mean, there is some tunes on that album that are just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I feel like this is already segued into us talking about that.
It kind of has, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah,
it has. Yeah.
When the Storm Comes Down is a classic.
It is, people. When the Storm Comes Down by Flotsam Jetsam came out the same week as Sacred Reich. I don't know if I've mentioned that.
and the same year as Obnoxious.
Oh my God! Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 1990. So and that's and it's funny the number of times, like when I was making my list, I'm like, should I put Obnoxious in there and see if anybody votes for it, and then we just have to talk about Obnoxious.
Oh no, that would be funny. That would be funny.
Yeah.
Well, man, look, I think we covered an extra album, didn't we? When the Storm Comes Down.
That's all right. That's we can fit it in. We let this take us where it's going to take us. And honestly, it was nice to leave off on a positive note and not you being all crotchety and angry about the album that I picked.
Not at all, mate. Not at all, mate.
I'm just kidding, man.
No. I'd say what though. I'm glad that I went back to it to listen to genuinely to gauge what it was like. And I was surprised.
So next time, everybody go join Howard's Patreon.
Yeah. Sign up.
Because this next time it'll be 4 albums that he chooses and everyone will vote on it. And then the next month we'll be back with whatever classic album. Hopefully it'll be an album that I don't like. So
yeah. I'm gonna see if I can find me one.
And then that has to win the vote.
Are you a Voivod fan at all?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And I'm also one of those people that I enjoy even Voivod in the 90s. So I'm just, it's going to be hard to pick one that I'm not.
No worries, man. No worries.
We'll figure it out. Eventually we will get there. And cool. And knowing my personality, even then I'll be like, oh, it's got some good things about it.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. So everybody, as usual, if you in YouTube down below in the comment, or not the comments, the description, it'll have a link to Howard's Patreon and all his other shit. So go follow him.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this as a podcast, go follow my shit on YouTube.
Go follow his shit, and I'll share his shit with my shit, and you'll get a load of shit every time.
Yeah, and we'll be back with more shit in a month.
Cool, man.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, everyone.